Pretend that you have just entered the door to your cousin's 9th birthday party, and this is what greets you. After you get over your immediate fear of being trampled by an enraged elephant, your first realization will probably be something along the lines of, I didn't know this was a jungle-themed birthday party. When walking into a party such as this, it's easy to determine the theme, right? You look at the decorations and color scheme, listen to the music, see the party games like pin the horn on the rhino, and pretty much know what the party will be about. So why is it so easy to determine the theme to a birthday party, but so difficult to determine the theme of a novel? The answer is simple. Finding a theme is like putting together a puzzle. With broader subjects like parties or songs, this is a lot easier because your attention is drawn specifically to these elements. Generally, sad songs aren't going to have fast beats, and pirate-themed birthday parties aren't going to include Sesame Street characters. To continue the puzzle metaphor, it's solving a 9-piece puzzle as opposed to a 1,000-piece puzzle. Like this puzzle, literature goes a lot deeper and is a lot more complex. If you were to do this 1,000-piece puzzle, would you be able to do it in the time that it takes to do a 9-piece puzzle? Certainly not. This puzzle has a lot of space that has the same or similar colors and pieces that look like they could go one place but really belong somewhere else. And books are just like this. They have layers that sometimes go together and sometimes don't. Themes in literature are not meant to be solved immediately. Just as you couldn't take one piece from this puzzle and tell someone what the big picture will be, you will not be able to turn to a random page in a book, read it out loud, and proudly proclaim the theme. Because themes are not individual pieces to the puzzle of a book, but the overall picture instead. Think of finding the theme like solving a murder mystery. Right off the bat, you're going to get some clues. And while they may be hidden, it's not too difficult to find them. Like shells at the beach, symbols in literature can give you messages about what's important to the background of a story. But if you don't look for it, all you see are shells. And the closer you get to solving the mystery, the harder deciphering the clues becomes. The hidden meaning becomes even harder to see. Oftentimes, we believe someone besides the guilty party is the offender. When it comes to solving the mystery or finding the theme, we often feel like the answer is just staring us in the face. But when you take a different look at the situation, the answer suddenly becomes clear. Who was the character that kept coming up? What was the idea or concept that linked everything together? It is when you solve this question that you learn what the theme, or who the murderer, really is. Themes in literature can come in many forms, but they are usually thoughts or ideas that consistently repeat throughout the story. Remember, these ideas or concepts need to be discovered. They're not the picture themselves, but the elements that bring the picture together. I can't think of a single book where the character is going to come right out and tell you what the theme is. So it's not going to be obvious, and as readers, we really don't want it to be. Themes are the elements of stories that make us feel something. When a character over and over fights for the one he loves, we know in our hearts that that story won't really be over until he's won our heart. Or when a woman is constantly surrounded by death, we know that she can survive anything. Let's take a look at the popular children's story, Peter Pan. Almost everybody knows it. Ask any 5-year-old and they'll be able to tell you that Peter Pan is about a boy who flies to Neverland, fights Captain Hook and a crocodile, saves Wendy Darling, and still manages to have fun. Yet nowhere in that summary do we hear the theme, the link that ties it all together. The first clue to the theme is the very first line of the story. All children, except one, grow up. And as the story continues, yes, Peter encounters adventure and fights for what he believes in, but it all comes back to the same idea. He is fighting to stay a kid, and the most loathsome character is the only adult in the entire story. Let's look at the supporting characters, the Lost Boys. These are boys who may have been treated poorly, may be fighting a mean bearded pirate for their lives, but are deathly afraid of becoming adults. And it is by noticing these elements that we get our main theme, that everybody grows up, whether they like it or not. Now let's take a look at a novel. Novels are even trickier because they often have more than one theme. Let's use S.E. Hinton's The Outsiders. Looking at one of the cast stills from the movie version, consider what possible themes there could be. Friendship, brotherhood, overcoming obstacles are all ideas that initially come to my mind. The climax of the story is when Johnny, a boy sick and tired of being beaten up by his parents, the Socs, and life, takes a stand and kills one of the Socs, Bob. This gives way to another possible theme, murder. But unless there are more murders in the book, and the entire story only works because of these murders, this is not our theme. Take a closer look at Johnny. What do you notice about his face? It's battered and bruised, just like the rest of him. And not just once, but over and over and over. The Socs beat him, his parents beat him, society beats him, the fire beats him, and eventually, life beats him. In the end, Johnny dies because he just couldn't take it anymore. Now let's take a look at a happier theme in the same story. Johnny is part of a gang called the Greasers. Throughout the story, he is almost never without his best friend, the narrator of the story, Ponyboy. Closer than brothers, these two always have each other's backs. And while friendship can certainly be a theme, this one tends to go a little bit deeper. Now we see Ponyboy with Cherry, a Soc. In the story, we learn that she becomes friends with Ponyboys and the Greasers, acting at times as a spy and giving them information. And this is after Johnny kills her boyfriend. Now we see that not only is friendship a consistent element in the story, the friendship changes and morphs as the story progresses, but they never falter. Near the end of the story, after Bob, Johnny, and Dally are all dead, Ponyboy, his brothers, and the rest of the gang are left to pick up the pieces. And while times are rough, they survive and conquer because they have each other. As the story ends, we see that friendship and family really can conquer all, even death. And this is where we find our other main theme. So the next time you are reading a novel, remember that underneath the conflict and the character development, along with the resolution and the details, lies the element that ties it all together, the theme. And ask yourself, based on what I know and the details I've read, what is a theme?